Welcome to the Mischief. I'm Vallen, and this is Quark, a Minecraft mod by Vazkii. Today we'll be covering the world of Quark, or at least that's the name of the module. As per usual, click the Q on your menu and you can see the world option here. It's a couple pages, and it's not merely limited to simple things like rocks and trees, though that does kind of make up a little bit of it at least. Our first feature covers Basalt, or Basalt, however you would like to pronounce it, and it usually will appear in the Nether. As you can see, it's these very large areas here that typically show up in some kind of circular pattern, or at least as you can see in these demonstrations they can show up as smaller sections that aren't necessarily going to be circular, but basically you're going to find plenty of them all over the place. Now, what you can do with these is you can actually craft them, make some really nice dark stone objects. They're similar to cobblestone in many aspects and can be used to make other blocks as well, like andesite. And you can also combine them together to make things like pavement, as before. Alternately, you can also take some ender biotite plus cobblestone to make even more basalt. And if you don't have ender biotite enabled, it just simply requires coal. Next up, we have the option for, well, big mushrooms in swamp areas. As you can see, there are the large speckled, and there are the brown ones just in generic swamp biomes. Another new feature is going to be that blazes will, well, they'll spawn in random areas in the Nether. They won't necessarily always be in some kind of fortress or from a spawner. You may find them just randomly wandering around the Nether, ready and waiting for you. Typically found in temples and strongholds, you may come across buried treasure maps, which, once you end up using them, you'll have the option of locating the buried treasure itself. Of course, you'll have to follow it on the map. And as before with vanilla mechanics, the circle represents you. If it's rather large, like it is now, then you know you're getting close. If it's rather small, then you know you've got quite some ways to go. Then, of course, you just need to kind of get close to the buried treasure area, and then you start digging down. In this case, I've gone into spectator mode, and you can see that there are some treasure chests buried nearby. Another feature that you might find useful or just really pretty is crystal caves. You'll find in a crystal cave at least 2 different colors of crystals, plus you'll find all sorts of loot dotting the environment, which is really, really nice. And you can use these crystals, if not for decoration yourself, for crafting a bunch of the colored runes. Of course, not all the crystal caverns are going to be completely safe. Some of them are going to be rather deep and dangerous, but they still will often yield some sort of reward, if at least just the crystals themselves. Now, as mentioned at the beginning of this, if you go into your game menu, press Quark, go to World, and you can choose Default World Options. This is the next section. You can actually go in here and change just about everything that you want for your default world configuration. This is something that you can also use in the normal vanilla setup, but this gives you a lot more detail and is a lot better organized with how you can actually change things around to your liking. Ooh, lava oceans. This next section actually adds a few different mobs. We have our Ashen, which you may rarely encounter at very deep depths down below. They're very dangerous. You don't want to mess with these guys. On top of that, you may hear some zombie noises around me, but yet you're not actually seeing any zombies. Allow me to help bring to light what we are looking for. Let's spawn somebody in, and they will start moving in a different direction. Oh, I just saw some particles over here. There's some more particles. It's an invisible mob. This is the Dweller. As you can see here, they are still attracted to villagers as normal zombies are, but they will be invisible until either they are hit or they hit their own target. Now, yes, you still have your standard vanilla dungeons out and about, dotting the landscape underneath and so on, but you also may have some more varied ones. In this case, I was mining and found that there is a little area that you can perhaps dig through and find, oh, hello, a new kind of like little area for ruins. This is based off of Noodlor's Dank Dungeons. In fact, I think it's a direct import. You might have several different variations. This is just one example of it. Some of them will be like four little areas next to each other. This one has some taller, some smaller, little winding corridors here and there, and so on. But they likely will have at least some kind of loot at the very least. This next bit is not in your standard, well, overworld or nether. It is, yes, you guessed it, in the end. And as you see, there is your standard endstone structure with your ender dragon out and about. Nothing is out of the ordinary so far, but once the ender dragon has been killed, once the dragon is defeated, you'll notice a distinct difference in the landscape. As you can see, Ender Biotite is being populated on the entire island with the death of the Ender Dragon. And every time that you destroy him, or her, as the case may be, it will produce more on the existing endstone that is already out there. Next up, we have something not nearly as sinister or difficult to find, and that is this, a fairy ring. If you see a circle of daisies, there's a good chance that down in the center of it, you might find some really good loot. Now in this case, I have turned on ore excavation in a, let's do 3x3 area, so that we can quickly get down to where the goods are, and you may find some diamonds or some emeralds, as the case may be, buried directly below the fairy ring. Now here I am out in the ocean. There are no ocean monuments nearby. Quark also will start spawning some other random creatures in appropriate biomes. That being something along the lines of... one of these guys down here. I apologize for the difficulty in seeing. Let's put something like this down here, and you can see that there are guardians that will spawn in the oceans randomly. And their sound has been adjusted so that it's not going to be nearly quite as bad for you if you're out in the water, or if you are even near an ocean monument. They should be a little bit more tolerable sound-wise if you have a base nearby. Next we have something a little bit more interesting. Nether fossils, or you might find some, in this case this is just a very simple version, but bone structures out in large lava pools floating around for you to discover or otherwise harvest for your own goods. This next part actually covers Nether Smokers, which kind of gives a bit of realism, or at least a degree of it, in the Nether to add a little bit of smoke coming up from some of the lava. Often you'll find just underneath it these here, Nether Smokers. Now there isn't a recipe for them. If I place them down, and I try to harvest this in survival mode, you do get it back, so you can actually keep these for your own use, whether it be in a chimney or otherwise. So to further demonstrate a little bit about how the Nether Smoker might work, placing it down, it will of course emit smoke. Placing a block on top, it will therefore stop it from smoking pretty much entirely. But if you are to do a little something else, and that is basically make a chimney around it, in this case I'm using better builder's wands, and you can see that the smoke is actually rising with it. It will, as the wiki states, propagate the smoke up accordingly, so therefore you can actually make a proper chimney using your Nether Smoker, not just one that has the little smoker right inside the top edge. Now, something you might find in amongst some of the villagers is going to be one of these guys, a Cartographer, which will probably only have one trade to start, and that's usually paper and emeralds. It might actually vary, but I'm going to grab a bit here, and we'll see about getting this, upgrading your Cartographer with a bunch of trades. There we go. Wait for him to level up as they normally do, and then you can see the new trades. Now what does a Cartographer do besides just offer you paper for emeralds, which isn't that bad of a deal? You access here, you can see now he offers a compass, as well as emeralds and compass will get you, a Savannah Pathfinder map. That's right. He will start selling you Pathfinder maps, and there are different versions depending upon how often you trade him. You can get one in an Extreme Hills, you can get one in Ice Plains, and so on. This is a really good way of actually finding different kinds of biomes if you're interested in just that, but it also can potentially get you a bunch of just really good loot. In this case, I'm going to get myself an Ice Plains Pathfinder map. There we go. And now when I look at this, it looks very similar to the buried treasure map, just a little bit different, and still offers you some really good loot options. As you can see on the bottom left corner there, I am a very small circular dot, so I'm very, very far away from this treasure chest. But at the very least, I now know that I can feasibly get to an ice biome if I so needed it. And look, he now has new trades, empty map, he's got flower forest, and so on. You can unlock multiples of these, and I believe that there's up to 5 different levels, potential maps carried. Now this next one is actually regarding pirates. That's right, pirates. They're kind of undead, they don't despawn, so you will have to fight them if you approach them in survival mode. As you can see, there's quite a few of them. And they may offer specific special drops. Here we go, we've got the boss of the group here. And of course, you've got your steering wheel for the boat. It's really good. It's really good. Lots of really neat stuff. You can get these cool banners, as well as inside you have options of getting things like fire charges, all sorts of beds, loot aplenty is all underneath here. You can see there's a chest here. You can get chests there, lots of guys for you to fight and potentially get some really good items for. A pirate's hat is a must for any serious modded Minecrafter. Now there is also a little something else, and that is the realistic world generation that Quark has to offer. It allows you a better cave system, a bit of some higher cliffs and mountains, a little more realistic rolling fields, and of course you have the default Quark bonus of colors. As you can see, you can get some really interesting landscapes, and these are just some of the calmer ones that I have to show. I've seen some really lovely ones in the past, and I hope you guys really enjoy and can find some of your own as well. Not only does it offer a really interesting world gem, but there's a new feature called speleotherms. And that is these, basically stalactites and stalagmites that you might find, well, underground or in any kind of structure. You saw them in the Nether, as well as in some of the caving systems. You can actually harvest these. With a regular pick, you would actually break the entire thing, and the entire speleotherm will end up breaking. But if you have Silk Touch, you're able to harvest it individually, and you can replace it. Not to mention, as you can see here, you have different speleotherms that you have available to you. You can actually craft these if you so desire with the different materials involved, allowing you a little bit of, well, some more decoration options. Now there has also been a little bit of a revamp with some of the stone. Instead of finding just like stone everywhere, you might find these large deposits of things like granite, diorite, or you might even find some of the other ones, like andesite, as well as marble, for example, which is, just a really nice, bright white block for you to choose from, and at least one more. Limestone, which kind of adds a little bit of a sandy stone color to it. Really nice, really nice. Now, on top of that, there are some other biomes that you can actually find underground, like a lush biome, which is really, really cool. Just kind of giving you an example here. And this can spawn under jungles and the like. Underneath deserts, you might find such things as sandstone biome tunnels. Under swamps, you might find things like slime biomes, which can actually provide you with big quantities of slime, as well as different kinds of terracotta options. These aren't quite as common, but they are found underground in your usual caverns. Underneath oceans, or on the edges of them, you may find prismarine biomes, which will also have sea lanterns as well as prismarine options for you to harvest, with little pools of water and so on, things that you just might find out there. No need to find yourself any of the water temples. If you're simply looking for something like this, you can harvest up some of the materials this way. Underneath the plains biome, you might actually find spider caverns, which will be filled to the brim with spider webs, which of course you can harvest for all the string that you could desire. Under forests, you might find an overgrown biome. Now this of course is a crevasse, or one of those large openings underground, but it also is serving as one of those specific spawning areas as well. Really cool stuff to find these things underground sometimes. Under taiga and other snowy biomes, you might find these icy biomes that kind of have these packed ice-filled permafrost stone tunnels. Typically under mesa biomes, you'll find these lava biome tunnels, which would be filled with your brimstone variants, as well as a little bit of obsidian and lava, just kind of filling the caverns. Then under mountains and mushroom islands, you're likely to find these glow shroom tunnels and caverns underneath. They're really, really cool, and they may offer you some of the glow shrooms that you might want to decorate with, or otherwise just spread this lovely illuminating material around your base. And yes, they do offer their own light sources available on this stuff. It kind of generates a low light level. As you can see, there are some sparkles, and of course the glow shrooms will increase with their own light levels when planted on here. So when mining in the overworld, you may find on occasion, while down deep underground, some sections of dirt that will be piled up behind some of the rock layers. And in this case of Quark, you will also find underground clay in similarly manufactured areas, though it will be less often. Now you may also find normally spawning on soul sand these, a wraith. They are, well, similar to a zombie, but as you can hear, it made the sound of a spider. Well, they don't just make spider sounds. They make the sounds of all sorts of mobs and creatures and anything that might make a sound in Minecraft. And when you kill them, they drop some special goods. These soul beads, which can be used in recipes. As before, I showed you soul powder in a previous episode, but also a soul bead, which, well, is not the best item to use if you're not prepared for it, but when using it, you will therefore get a curse for 20 minutes or one entire Minecraft day. What this does is it will start spawning mobs around you, ignoring light levels as well as any other restrictions. Within 64 blocks, you're going to be getting a lot of mobs spawning nearby. So it's something you're going to want to be prepared for. If you need to go hunting for mobs, this is a great way of doing so. It's not just going to spawn wraiths. It will spawn them according to the biome and so on that you're in, but they will also be drawn to you at the same time. So I think that sums up enough of Quark World Gen. And I think that's where I'm going to end things here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If so, be sure to give a like, comment, subscribe, and as always, be sure to spread the mischief to others if you enjoy this kind of content too, or if you think that they might. And if you want to support the mischief, please feel free to check out the links in the description below. Until next time, folks, I'll see ya.